In this episode, you'll learn why your mind creates drama when life gets too peaceful. Welcome to Energy Alignment for Entrepreneurs, the podcast helping entrepreneurs be free from anxiety, stress, and tension through balancing emotions and consciousness expansion. 3 things you'll discover today: how your nervous system mistakes peace for danger, why solving problems can become your identity trap, and what to do when you realize you're creating chaos unconsciously. Now, we'll begin with the first: how your nervous system mistakes peace for danger. I want to bring in a metaphor here, but first let's lay out the underlying variables. Then we can go into metaphors, where the nervous system works in terms of memory. It stores information. And I want you to be very conscious of your relationship or your perception to your experiences and all which you have kind of lived through in your life, where the nervous system can be a tricky little thing where it's extremely important. We cannot operate or function without it. In your younger years, like 0 to 7, and then you have from like 7 to 15, and then you got like 15 to 21 or early 20s. We got a few phases there. And you need to understand and reflect upon what you may have stored in your nervous system from those certain stages of your life, where if you have been trained or conditioned, or on average, your being was stuck in a state of survival, in other words, danger, then peace is going to be something which feels unfamiliar. And the thing with the nervous system is a lot of the times in life, our lower perception loves familiarity. Our weaker vibrations love that consistent mechanical routine. And we confuse it as safety, but it's really an illusion of security. But it's really a slow, patient suffocation, right? And that's where we insert the quote of many men, many ladies, they die at 25 and they're not buried till 75 or older. And that is because their spirit had been suffocated by their programming. And then that programming corrupted their decision-making mechanism. So then they make decisions without intuition or relationship to spirit. And as you build that coffin for yourself, it can sometimes look in the form of getting a doctorate degree. It can sometimes look in the form of being a meth addict on the street. The variables are drastic. They will change and change. The specific content of what a lost soul or spirit manifests as, it could be Ted Bundy, or it could be just, someone working at a retail shop forever. The essence here is that it's our responsibility and it's our duty, it's our gift to unravel the misconceptions and the layers of fog that we see ourselves as, where the identity of the ego has so much to do with material gain in status and approval of others' opinions, and basically attention on all which one cannot control. Now, I don't mean to say that you do not control your material advancement, but what I am saying is that if your parents had no soul or spirit connection due to them not kind of having the opportunity or doing the work, however you label it, everyone has the opportunity, so I don't want to put it like that. But just the timing, really. I have compassion for all spirit and soul, any human being who may be lost. A compassion, no judgment. There's nothing wrong with being where you're at, whether you're looking at yourself or people whom you know. You must have compassion for those who are deaf and blind, because one day they will see. And if you're not to have compassion for them, who are you really? Who are you really if you are to judge the blind? This is why when Jesus was on the cross, he said, like, forgive them. They do not know what they're doing. Even as he's being murdered by others, he understands that he will not let his heart be corrupted by self-centered importance. So, what the nervous system can really create is a consistent weakness, a consistent operation through what is not truth. But the beautiful part of this is you will never learn about truth unless you have your own deceptions and lies to work with, to notice, to let go of. It is this process of you being this slithering identity, me. And as the snake sheds its skin, well, even before the skin is to be shed, the snake begins to have internal awareness that it is time for the skin to be let go of. And this is where I can't motivate you. All I can do is speak to you in a manner where maybe it nudges you, maybe it lights you, maybe it, sends you in a certain way to have awareness around your worldview, the way that you see yourself, the way that you have this identity, and how that identity creates the lens which you perceive all life through, right? So it's your job to decipher the misconceptions in your perception, to understand the ink within the way that you see. And you get the clarity through feeling the moment that you are straying or moving in a manner which is almost diabolical. The only way you change is through bringing awareness to those moments. Point being, the nervous system, the programming, the conditioning, humans being lost, it's all necessary. You are where you're meant to be. And I'm where I'm meant to be. We need to accept that and move in a manner where the only way you're going to create something materially, spiritually, holistically beautiful is by being the person you know you need to be even before it has all been done. This is the intelligence of creation where God is saying, you're so much deeper, wiser than you may have been told. But you have to do the work to invigorate that intelligence. It's not going to come to you unless you are kind of communicating to God that you're catching on to his laws, to her laws, the way that this entire thing, universe, world, humans, society, the weather, the animals, the nature, how it's all been constructed with intelligence, in symmetry. Ha! Woo! Maybe I shouldn't get rid of that retake. Now, ultimately, where are we at? Yeah, solving problems can become your identity trap, right? If we're a bit practical here, the nervous system, the conditioning, the programming, it's not a problem. It's a gift. And the only way you can unravel a gift is by being present in the moment. The gift is whatever you're feeling in the moment. And You don't need to solve the moment. You need to be here in the moment. When you are here in the moment, there isn't an identity. When you're in the moment, you are unbound by time and thought. And there cannot be, I'll ask you this, can there be an identity without time and thought? So obviously, it's 1:25 p.m. Eastern Time on the 18th. Huh? So you're still in tune with logical dimensions of reality. But the way that you operate, you're not bound or you're not carrying the weight of this have to do that, need to become that, all this. Now, it will arise, but the gift is in the moment that it arises. That's how you change what you are, is as the falsehood arises, you shine light on it and you commit to God. You commit to truth. You commit to movement and action. Now, solving problems can be an identity trap because you go and you go and you go, and you kind of think that by being this fast moving headless chicken that you're solving everything, that you're doing great. And the identity trap there is that if there's no space for spirit, then you will not have a connection to spirit. And one of the greatest forms to creating that space is a stillness. Whether it be here where I'm speaking like this, or whether it be you are just running in nature, or you're sitting outside or sitting meditating in your room. Maybe you're driving a car and you're just noticing your breath and you have awareness of all sounds and on the external. You have awareness of your internal body mechanisms along with the breath. You are paying attention, hear the little squeaks or whatever, the sounds of moving through the world. See, if you're stuck in identity and solving problems and having to do things and just surviving, then that is a space where there's no peace. And that's the identity trap, is living a life with no peace. Like, no one really identifies as someone without peace. A lot of people identify into roles that keep them disconnected from stillness. So it's not about, again, you can't seek peace. You just have to realize, all right, maybe I don't need to fix everything in this moment. Maybe my perception of things needing to be fixed is wrong. How about I sit with how I got that perception of me having to do all these things, right? Because if you're in a state of you don't have enough time, that's a scarcity perception. Can you understand the nature of how scarcity is born? Or are you just one of those people who is ran by the scarcity and you never have time? If you never have time, then how are you ever going to have stillness to understand these deeper mechanisms of life, right? So the intelligence, the change, the beauty is still being materially successful, is still having some form of status in material knowledge. You know how to move through this world, but you have a freedom whilst moving through this world, and you do not bound yourself. You do not get stuck and trapped in these, whether it be a conditional mechanistic thought pattern that has been integrated into you that needs to be let go of, or just someone treats you a certain way and you have a reaction based upon your nervous system's past, or you just hear a certain sound and that sound triggers a traumatic energy in you because that sound brings up a memory which was diabolical in your experience. If you're trying to solve everything, then you won't be able to sit and understand that there's beauty in the things which seem to be terrible. And it's this intelligence where you look at the world through a lens of, okay, if I'm the creator, if I'm the source of all of this, how did it come to be? And then you start to realize, like, hey, all right, so there are energies and there is a contrast. There's a yin and yang, there's a night and dark, there's a feminine and masculine. What role do I play? How can I enjoy my time here? Right? Because if this world, I don't know, it depends on when you listen to this, right? You could be listening to this 500 years down the road. You could be listening to this today in 2025. You could be listening to this 5 years down the road, 50. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, it will always come down to you noticing your consciousness and realizing that you can think, but then you can also notice that you're thinking. And if you can notice that you're thinking, if you can notice that you have an identity, well, what's going on here? Are you the noticing of the identity or the identity? You are both. So how do you let the intelligence of creation show you and your identity who you need to be? Because this is really the game of strengthening our intuitive relationship to intelligence. And like, how else? What's the definition of intuition? You can simultaneously process millions of bits of information. Like, how else could you do that? You can't do it logically. AI can surely calculate, but there's a big difference between calculation and awareness. Big difference. You know, awareness can, and this is the thing, science fits within truth, but truth does not fit within science. And I'm not at all saying that truth is better than science. I'm saying there cannot be science without truth. But within truth, you can see it with a scientific lens. You're going to have to be your own doctor. You're going to have to be your own scientist. You're going to have to play every role and be so universally open that you, for example, I could give you a great little micro practice here. As I'm speaking, I notice that someone in the household is running the smoothie machine. And I start to notice my awareness get a little bit hinged on the smoothie machine sound. And rather than having any form of annoyance or judgment of those who are using that machine, I can notice, oh, my attention, where's my attention going? That is it. That's the work. Because as you have awareness of where your attention goes, then you will sow the correct seeds. Because, right? It's like compounding is a universal law. And where your attention goes, your energy compounds. And this is how you unveil and unravel the workings of the nervous system, is you start to notice all the triggers of the nervous system in daily life. You know, driving, walking, gymming, working, career, whatever you do, you're going to have triggers that suck your attention. You're going to have triggers that create a friction within your being, within your energetic vibration. There are going to be so many different forms of lower triggers. We could have a jealousy. We could have a rage or an anger. We could have an inferiority or a scarcity. You have to get good at deciphering how these vibrations have been sown, created within you. And as you bring attention to the moment that the present arises, the pain, the trigger is an opportunity to no longer hold that within your being. And as you do it and you do it, then your being has space. Because obviously, how space works is that things are in space. And your triggers, they're almost like vampiric, demonic leeches, where if you continuously have something that is draining, sucking, spiraling, then, you know, if you look at the way that a car works and the intake and everything has to be in order. There needs to be airtight mechanisms within the circulation of oil or whatever it may be to make sure that motor is working properly. It's the same thing with us as human beings, where if you just are always being drained and you have these leeches on you, the pain is going to get you to a point where you're sick of being sick and tired and you just kind of crumble. And that's where I say the downward route isn't the worst thing ever, because if you're going downward, then you are at least not just stagnant. But when you're in a hamster wheel, that's where a lot of humans, it's like the pain of truth, the pain of doing the work, the pain of realizing how this world works and how intelligent creation is, the real game that we're in. It takes human being who's got some balls, some guts, some courage. And a lot of humans are neutered, pussified. Forgive me. I love those who are pussified because I still know that one day they will no longer be little cats. They'll be big cats. I'm not here to judge the little cats. I'm just here to say, like, if you're ready to be a big cat, then can you take everything that we're speaking of here and act upon it? Can you live it? Because when you do that, you're going to notice the changes in everything, your relationships, how you feel, your ability to not live weak life, your ability to be emotionally strong, to not be reactive at the whim of some irrational rage driver in traffic or some individual who carries extraordinarily aggressive energy. The list goes on and on with the details, but the bottom line is, let me get into the last point. Actually, that's the line. What to do when you realize you're creating chaos unconsciously? Okay, that means there's some form of conscious awareness that you're creating chaos. If you're really, like, there's going to be a moment, right? You're creating chaos unconsciously until the moment where you realize it. Yeah? You realize it. And what do you do when you have a realization that you have been sowing seeds of a demonic essence or a chaotic essence? And what you are to do practically is to kind of make a simple list. On one side, you're going to write strong, and on the other side, you're going to write weak. You're going to draw a line in between and a line underneath strong and weak. Now you have this divided subset, and you're going to make a full list of the actions, the thoughts, and the feelings. Now you can have 3 categories for each section, right? Actions, eh, it's up to you what categories you use, but for me, I think that would be the smoothest way to go about this. Now, you have like simplicity, strong, and weak, and then you have your categories. Keep it simple. So then just get clear on the common thoughts that you have, the common feelings that you experience, and the frequent actions that you partake in. And that simple action of writing will help to organize what has been chaotic. And when you bring a bit of order into your being, it's going to be a lot easier to know when you are chaotic and to realize that it's time to change. See, the trouble with being lost is a lot of humans don't even notice they're lost. And if you never admit that you're lost, then how are you to change? That's why it's extraordinarily important to, if your life feels bad, to feel the badness of it and to not just perpetuate weakness through being a victim, which keeps the demonic vampires active. So now we'll do a quick recap: how your nervous system mistakes peace for danger, your body learned that chaos equals aliveness. When things get too calm, your system creates problems to feel familiar, right? Now, peace can feel like death to a nervous system that is so used to stress. And why solving problems can become your identity. If you get addicted to being the person who handles crisis without the problems to solve, who are you? So you got to understand that sometimes the ego has been programmed to need drama, to need problems, to feel important, to feel valuable, to feel needed. And then you can ask yourself, like, is this the way to be? Is this really how I want to live? Constantly fighting fires, putting out fires? Now, what to do when you realize you're creating chaos unconsciously? First, you notice it, right? You notice it and you don't judge yourself. And you sit with the discomfort, and then that discomfort, it can allow for your system to have a new relationship to life. And as that familiarity, everything changes, right? Because what you're so familiar to is now getting kind of pulled out, and you're kind of installing something unfamiliar. And that means that you're safe enough to stop running. And that's still going to be hard, but that's necessary. The hardness of life is necessary. Thank you so much for listening. Sincerely, share it with a friend. I'd appreciate that so much. And I'll keep it short, but I'm working on a fitness offer. It'll be affordable for everyone. And then there will be different stages of the offer depending on where you're at and what goals you have. Just for context, I've got like a decade plus of lifting experience, and really the body looks kind of like Zeus. So we're cool with that. And I'm confident that I could help the people out who align with my message and are ready to, what I say is fitness was always the first step for my spiritual journey. So that's kind of the angle I'm bringing into this, where if I can at least provide people with the first step, hey, you're going to have a lot of steps to walk, but I think that's meaningful. So thank you so much for listening. New episodes are out every Monday, Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Let's go.